Welcome to Horror Makes Us Happy, the podcast where we ask the question, what is it about horror that makes us happy? Your hosts are Steve Becker and myself, Chris Whitman, and you can find out more about us at our website, horrormakesushappy.com. Before we get started, this is the trigger warning. We will be talking about horror culture and horror things, which could involve sensitive subjects such as murder, rape, child abuse, foul language. We'll be talking about dark things, so if you come here for that stuff, welcome. We talk about dark stuff. But if you somehow stumbled across this and that's not your cup of tea, maybe think about it for 30 seconds and come back. It's interesting stuff. We talk about interesting things as well. But that is the necessary trigger warning. So with that being said, coming up in the near future, we will be talking to authors Sarah Langan and Paula D. Ashe. And shortly after that, director and producer Eduardo Sanchez. But today, we have the company of Max Booth III, author of such works as We Need to Do Something and Indiana Death Song. Welcome to the show, Max.
Hey, thanks for having me on the show, folks.
Our pleasure.
The show, the bird show.
Yes. So in this interview, we'll be asking 3 sets of questions covering your childhood, teenage years, and adult years to find out what it is that you like about horror. It's not meant to be a therapy session, though, so if there's anything that we ask that you don't want to answer, just say pass and we'll move on. But before we get into the meat of the interview, is there anything that you want to plug?
Yeah, my new book, Maggot Screaming, came out a couple of months ago. So, I would recommend that book. It's pretty gross and funny and sad. It's about a dad and a son who dig up 3 bodies that look just like themselves. And they have fun experimenting with the bodies.
Interesting.
That's, poke it with a stick type stuff.
Is it like voodoo doll type thing? Like you poke it with a stick and then all of a sudden you get a bruise in your arm, or?
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, neat.
Have to read it and find out.
Well, yeah, that's the idea.
That's right, baby.
So starting with childhood, what are some of your earliest memories of scary things?
Pass.
It's gonna be
great talking to you. Have a good day.
Pass.
I've always wanted to do an interview. But every question they ask me, I just go, "Oh, that's a bit too personal."
Yeah, well, personal.
I am the youngest of 3 brothers, so the youngest one besides me is also a decade age gap. So by the time I was growing up, they were already watching the really graphic, spooky movies. So I grew up just watching those. They were already just in my life, movies like Dead Alive and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and the Evil Dead trilogy. So when I think about being involved in this genre, it's just something I've always known. Like I don't know what it's like to grow up not watching spooky movies or reading scary books. It's just something I've always known.
But what were some of the first things you remember seeing?
Yeah, I recall being obsessed with Sam Raimi's Evil Dead trilogy quite a bit. Okay. I know I owned like the special limited edition DVD of Evil Dead that came in like the Book of the Dead, like it was made to look like flesh, and I was obsessed with that quite a bit. I owned the box set of the Nightmare on Elm Street DVDs, and I recall I have a specific memory of being able to buy that at Best Buy because I had saved up my money from shoveling snow for like all winter, because I grew up in Indiana. It snows. It snows in the Midwest. I don't know if you guys know that, but that's a fun fact about the Midwest. We get snow. I live in Texas now, so I haven't seen snow in a little bit.
Yeah, you guys get some snow over there.
We did. Yeah. We got a lot of snow like a year and a half ago. It was kind of terrifying. The whole state shut down.
Yep.
We heard about that. Yeah, power grid. I forgot about that.
That was nuts. I hadn't seen snow like that since I was a kid. Anyway, besides movies and books, like when I think of like things that are spooky and scary that happened to me as a kid, one memory that stands out is I was pretty young. I would say maybe 5, 6, and I was watching my brother play video games late at night. And we were in this room, and the window in the room was like right next to the driveway. So, and like that's where we had the trash cans and whatnot. And there was a noise outside. And usually when there was a noise like that, the assumption is, okay, raccoons have gotten into the trash can. But my brother said, go check that out for me. So I walked over to the window, and the window.
At 5?
Yeah.
Like, what were you going to do?
I don't know.
Sorry, go ahead.
I don't know. He was busy. He wasn't responsible. The window was open, but we had the blinds down. So I peeked through the blinds, and I saw, well, at first I saw nothing but the infinite blackness of night. And then the face of a clown just emerged in front of me and poked me in the eye. And I flew back and fell down, crying. My brother grabbed a baseball bat and ran outside and found nothing, but came back in, and I had a hell of a black eye for the next couple of weeks. So that's when I think of scary things that have happened to me. It's getting poked in the eye by a mysterious clown in the night.
Yeah, right.
The assumption we have is it was probably like a friend of my brother's trying to spook him and then got me instead. Well, maybe it was just one of those clowns that come out of the woods that you sometimes hear about. I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah, just random window
clowns. Yeah, that sucks that it gave you a black eye. That's not cool.
Yeah, I don't recommend it.
No, I
would not.
I imagine not. I'll jump around here with some of the questions. Did you have anything else terrifying happen in real life in your childhood? Since we're on that topic,
I mean, probably. I have this memory in my head because I have a collection coming out next year called Abnormal Statistics, and there's a short story in it that's mostly inspired from something that happened when I was a kid. And basically, I was a chubby little awkward child who didn't have a ton of friends, and certainly never, got romantic with anybody until I was much older. But I recall this girl about my age. She was a friend of a friend, and we were all hanging out. And she said to me, "Hey, do you want to go see the cannibal in the dunes?" Because we lived in Northwest Indiana, and there's lots of dunes, like sand hills around. So I said, "The cannibal in the dunes. All right, I'll go do that." In my head, I'm thinking, we're walking across town to these dunes, and she's convinced there's a homeless cannibal that just hangs out in the dunes, and it's like this big urban legend around town. And I'm thinking, there's no way she believes this is true. And I'm also thinking, am I about to get kissed? Is this going to happen? Is this going on? So we walk into these dunes with all bikes, and it's not like the easiest thing to navigate around. And she's just like really looking for this cannibal. And I begin getting afraid, thinking, oh shit, there might be a cannibal in these dunes. And then the most anticlimactic ending of all time happens. We both fall down one of the hills, and she cries and runs home, and I just have to go home by myself, and nothing happened. But I do think, like at that specific age, it's really easy for those types of legends to build up, like, oh shit, there could be a cannibal that lives in these dunes. But if someone told me that right now, I think I would believe it even more than when I did back as a kid. I certainly believe a cannibal is capable of living in dunes. I mean, where else would they live?
Yeah, I mean, the dunes have eyes, right?
The dunes do have eyes.
Those the hills have eyes.
Same thing, just different geographic area.
Let's see. So going back to the clown thing, normally the follow-up question there, if anything actually scary happened in your real life, is, did you get any, existing or residual fears that have stuck with you for the rest of your life type thing? Was it that traumatic, or did it just kind of like come and go?
I'm not afraid of clowns. I have a clown fetish, actually. So I think it inspired something sexual in me.
I'm not sure if you're being serious or joking.
I mean, maybe a bit of both. Have you ever taken a good long look at a red clown nose? doesn't make you feel anything special.
I mean, I like the curvature of it. It's kind of like the whole oddly satisfying videos. A nice spherical, perfectly round clown nose is very pleasing.
Don't you just want to cut one of them and lightly squeeze?
Kinda,
yeah.
Well, at least in my case, not in a sexual way, but yes. But whatever.
Not in a sexual way yet.
Well,
let it develop.
Cue Dragon Ball Z clip of Frieza saying, "Oh, I like these clown noses. I want to caress them."
Whoa. Now, I've never seen Dragon Ball Z, but will clowns having sex in that show? Because I need to watch it.
There was a Mr. Popo and the little kid with the clown face. They were kind of clowns, maybe. I don't know. It was a misquote where he was obtaining the Dragon Balls, which are a sought-after item, and he had a very misquoted, unfortunate statement of something along the lines of
holding some balls.
Yeah, and caressing them makes him feel joy, something along those lines. It's
Now,
been a while since I've heard it.
Now, is the plot of that show someone trying to find, like, a dragon's ball, like maybe a dragon egg? Is that what's going on?
Well, there are 7 of them, so I don't believe they would be testicles. I think, if anything, they would be eggs. Yeah, probably.
So it looks like a magical dragon egg. Like, that's the quest of the show. If we find this dragon egg, we can win the competition or something.
You get a wish. If you collect all 7 of them, you can summon the dragon, and he grants a wish.
Interesting. Just one wish for 7 eggs? God damn. That seems unbalanced.
And then they separate and just go to the 4 corners of the earth, and you have to find them again. Yeah, for one wish. It's a little much.
Oh, man. Well, what would you wish for?
I guess it all depends on what you're used to.
Usually bringing back to life a fallen comrade so the show can continue to go on and they don't have to lose a character. That's pretty much the MacGuffin.
Oh, God. And then so you just repeat the cycle and try to get the eggs again, and then somebody else dies again, so now you got to revive them again.
Exactly.
I would wish for more eggs.
Yeah,
oh, my God. Why has no one ever done that? I wish for more Dragon Ball. Oh, my God.
Or wish that the next, after the next wish, they don't go to the 4 corners of the earth and just stay right there.
Right? Like, I wish for one more wish and for the Dragon Balls to just drop right here and stay here.
You're right.
Now, see, I love eggs, so I think I would just be tempted to eat them.
Eat them. Meanwhile, the dragon's standing by in horror, like, you can't do that. Yes, I can.
Well, then they separate out of your body and it becomes like a Clive Barker story. Flesh just rips open.
You sure you want to eat those eggs? Yeah.
Just be a fine.
You guys
just
have,
a fine myth.
You guys have to watch those Wishmaster movies. Bill's always like, you have one wish, but I'm gonna do like an ironic twist on it. That would be it. The eggs would come out of you.
Yep.
My favorite was it Wouldn't you like to break free, or wouldn't you like to escape? Oh, I think that was Tony Todd too, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
And then he ends up in a water chamber and drowns.
That guy had fun with his job.
He did.
All right. So let's go back to some of the other stuff that you mentioned. Evil Dead box set.
Yeah.
And Nightmare on Elm Street. What did you like about those?
The movies or the actual cases?
Yes.
Well, I don't know. It's not something I sit around and like try to analyze. The Evil Dead movies were just super fun and chaotic, and there's not a lot of logic to them, and I tend to not like logic. And they're just funny and also scary at the same time, and I like both of those emotions. And I don't think anything else has exactly captured that type of feeling for me than those 3 movies. But that the Necronomicon box set was just awesome. It was like, it felt to me like what ancient dead flesh would feel like, that case. It was really cool. And the Nightmare on Elm Street box set was cool to me at the time because the spines, if he held them all together like as a stack, they filmed an image of Frederick Krueger. And I love the movies. I loved all of them as a kid. I haven't watched any of the sequels in a long time. I imagine they were not great, but at the age, I loved them.
Right.
Hit or miss.
Yeah. I don't know. Those movies will just specifically the original is really terrifying to me. Even now, I think it's really effective as a movie. It's one of the best thriller movies ever made, I think.
What thing scared you?
I guess the fact that you can't really escape a dream, everybody has to sleep.
Yeah.
Yep. I was wondering if there was maybe some scene or something like that popped out to you. But yeah, in general, no, like you say, you can't escape a dream.
And nothing that really comes to mind. Well, it's a scene, I guess, in it, his limbs will like stretching infinitely around an alleyway, and I thought that was pretty cool. The way he can just kind of readjust his biology.
Well, it is a dream, so
yeah, I know. That's his thing, right? He can only do things in dreams until he can't.
Until he can't. Until he gets you in the real world, and then you're done for.
Yeah.
Many of our guests, there is a dividing line where prior to a certain time or event in their life, they were scared by horror, and then after that point, they found horror to either be, fun or amusing or, some positive experience. It sounds like in your case, though, it was always a positive experience. There was nothing, or was there an earlier point in your life where you were scared of it?
No, I always loved it, and only certain movies affected me negatively as a kid. One of those being the original Pet Sematary adaptation, specifically the Zombie Kid Gage. For whatever reason, I was fairly young, so I don't recall like the reasoning in my head, but seeing that zombie kid move around freaked me out quite a bit, like to the point that I would cry when I saw it. I don't know, there's no possible way for me to tell you why that was, but it definitely affected me. And the other movie that affected me, I don't want to say negatively, but it definitely made me feel bad, even though I loved it, was the Texas Chainsaw Massacre when I saw that movie. I had seen so many other movies until then, but when my brother put that movie on, maybe it was the way he cautioned me against how scary it was going to be. I don't know. He built it up in my head. But only that movie, even now, it's the only movie I've seen that seems like the person who made the movie might not be completely sane. Like, it feels really much like a madman is making a movie and nothing is safe and everything is dangerous. And that movie gave me a really unhinged, dangerous feeling while watching. Like, this is something no one else has done. And I don't know how to feel. It makes me feel sick to my stomach, but I can't look away. So that movie definitely affected me as a kid.
Some insight to someone's unwell mind.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Guy just wanted to, get his Christmas shopping done. There were chainsaws next to him.
Right. Let's see. Okay, so you did have horror family. Two brothers, or was it just one brother that was into horror?
I have 3 total, but I grew up with 2 of them, and both of them loved the genre. Okay. Different types of genres, though. Like my brother James, he was big into slashers mostly. He's a big Halloween fan and Jason. And my other brother Jeremy, he loved like B-movie type of stuff like Dead Alive and Toons. Jeremy and I would often walk downtown to like the Hollywood Video and just pick anything that looked cool on the spooky shelves, and we would just go home and watch them all. So he didn't have many limits, whereas James was mostly just a slasher guy.
Okay.
Back in the days when you could trust box art.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, more or less.
Yeah, maybe. So other than James and Jeremy, did you have any other friends or family that were horror fans?
Yeah. I had an aunt who was not actually related to me, but was my mom's best friend, named Teeny, what we all called her. Teeny was a big fan of horror movies, and she would always encourage me to watch them. And anytime we visited, she would have a sleeve of new DVDs to let me borrow that she would download from like LimeWire and then put onto discs. She had thousands of illegal movies she would get, and she would just have new recommendations for me. She would hand me a sleeve of movies I've never even heard of before, and I would go home and watch them and just be amazed every time. Like, I recall some of those movies. There was something called Hatchet, I believe I saw that she sent me, and High Tension was one of them. I'm like 10. She's
High Tension at 10. Okay.
I mean, probably younger than that, to be honest. Yeah, just crazy ass movies. I think she would just just find lists of any movie in the genre and just download any that she could find and then give them to me, and I would bring them back, and she would have a whole new sleeve of discs for me to watch. So that was a pretty big part of my influence on the genre, I think.
How did your parents feel about her sharing this stuff with you?
Oh, they were fine. We never had many limits when I was a kid of what we could and couldn't watch. The main thing, you could watch, in my household, you could watch someone, being impaled from the ass to the mouth, and that would be fine. But if they showed a nipple, you better cover your eyes. So that was the only thing. Like, we watched, for some reason, this baffles me now, a movie we watched a lot when I was a kid was From Dusk Till Dawn, and the entire second half of that movie is nudity. So, I didn't really see much vampire action until I was a teen.
Wait, there were vampires in that movie?
Yeah, right. It's all nudity once the vampires show up. Good movie, though.
Yeah, you're right. That is a bit strange that they'd let you watch that.
Well, something... when I was a kid, we didn't really have bedrooms. We all just slept in the living room. So anything we watched, we all watched together because we just have the one room we all lived in.
Okay. It still doesn't explain why they let you watch the movie.
I mean, it's probably me asking to watch it again because, I love the horror genre. But I've always loved crime movies too, and the first half of that movie is just a crime movie, and it's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I was a huge fan of Quentin Tarantino, even at 6, 7.
Well, like you say, you like the chaotic stuff when he's definitely he likes chaotic stuff. As soon as you said that, I was like, oh, you and Chris are going to have a lot in common. So did you dress up for Halloween? Yeah,
I did. Nothing that stands out too much. Usually just, that's a spooky mask. I could just put that on. Nothing that was a name brand of some movie. Just a generic spooky mask that was cheap enough for us to buy. I would say beginning around age 9 until I was too old to trick or treat. I would just go and walk across town and walk around Halloween with a couple friends. That time has kind of gone away now. Little parents would be like, "Yeah, you can just go. See ya, have fun." Yep. But we would just walk around and we would get some candy. Usually, we would just cause a mayhem around town with eggs and TP and just setting things on fire at a really young age.
Yeah, so you went straight past the collecting candy to mayhem. I like it.
Yeah, candy's all good and all, but what's even more fun is setting a fillet party on fire. Yeah.
No, I can relate. I set my bedroom trash can on fire in my bedroom when I was in 3rd grade, 4th grade.
Nice.
And it was a plastic trash can, so it went up screaming.
I love the idea that you have a bedroom gas can and you grow up and you find out, wait a second, you didn't have a bedroom gas can?
What are you doing?
For the I can't think of the fucking right word now. The
thermostat?
No, it was the lantern. That's the word I was looking for. Not propane, but what they used to have, kerosene lamp.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we had we didn't have heat. We didn't have heat growing up in my house, but we had one of those giant kerosene tanks in the living room, and we just slept around it. And I'm only just now, upon doing some research into kerosene tanks, discovering that was highly dangerous, and we could have died.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Monoxide.
Yeah. Now, whenever I have a slip of memory and I forget something, I just go, carbon monoxide strikes again.
Yeah. Thanks, Mom and Dad. See, what you didn't know is you actually had another older sibling that just didn't make it.
Oh.
I did have a twin, but yeah, we had to dispose of him.
These things happen,
Yeah.
Sometimes you become an author and they become, a vestigial twin inside your brain, and then you have to kill them. These things happen.
Yes.
They happen a lot. Look it up.
Yeah,
You're right.
I did. And watched the movie, Dark Half. It's awesome.
I love that book so much.
Did you have any really scary dreams when you were a kid?
No, I don't think so.
No?
I'm not someone who recalls my. I'm not someone who recalls my dreams too well. I'm envious of those who are like, yeah, this is what happened in my dream. I'm going to tell you all about it. I'll wake up and I might have some brief segment of a dream in my head, but it goes away by the time I get up.
All right, so that pretty much covered childhood. We definitely would say that horror made you happy in that phase of your life.
Yeah.
Moving into teenage years, what were some of the scary stories or books or movies that impacted you in your teenage years?
So I had a pretty odd teenage life compared to a lot of teenagers. When I was heading to the final month of being 12, myself and my parents, we lost the house we had, and we moved into a hotel, and then we lived in that hotel and many other hotels until I was 16, and I didn't go to school or leave the hotels. I just stayed in hotel rooms for a long time, and during that time, I watched and read a shit ton of the horror genre. So I would say the genre affected me positively, as it was a good distraction from monotony, just of nothing going on.
That's interesting. Living in a hotel for 4 years. Wow.
Yeah, we lived in various hotels around Northwest Indiana. Sometimes we would live at a casino hotel because my mom often visited the casino, which is how we lost the house. But she would get comps for the hotel at the casino, so we would stay at that hotel, and then we would stay at Super 8 hotels, and Phileas had little cheap flea bag hotels around the state, depending on what we could afford. Well,
I was going to ask if your mom had a gambling problem, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Explanatory.
Dad. She did.
Sounds pretty cut and dry. I just didn't know if I wanted to ask the question. It's like
it answers itself.
Yeah.
You don't lose the house accidentally.
I mean, to be completely upfront, I'm assuming that's how we lost the house, because no one will tell me. One day we lost electricity, which happened a lot. A day or two would pass and it would come back on. But this time it didn't come on. And then one day I got home from school and it was, we're going to go stay at the hotel at the casino this weekend until we get this fixed. And then we never went back.
When you first said that you lost the house, my first thought was that it burned down from the kerosene heater.
That's how I lost my twin.
Yeah.
Well, the twin was in the house when it burnt down.
Yeah.
Let's see. But so that's real life horror.
Yeah.
I guess let's ask the follow-up question there then. Do you feel that has impacted you throughout your life in any particular way?
It's shaped me completely, I would say. It's made me the type of writer I am today, because I've gotten published at a really young age. I turned 29 tomorrow, actually.
Oh, wow.
But I've been getting published for over a decade at this point now. And a lot of times, other writers in the genre I meet up with, they say, how the hell did you get books out so early? And the answer is, I had a lot of practice time as a teenager.
Yeah.
I did pretty much nothing as a teen besides write, read, and watch. Most people don't begin writing until they're in their 20s, seriously trying to write. I began setting stuff out by the time I was 15. I wasn't accepted when I was 15. I didn't get accepted until I was 17. But most people don't begin that early. So I had that type of that type of advantage that most people do not have, realize I was sharpening my writing skills way before they would have. And so that greatly affected me. And I watched and read a lot of spooky books and movies that I love to this day. And, they helped just distract me and pass the time, because living in a hotel is really boring. There's not much to do. Since a lot of the hotels were like next to highways, it wasn't like I could just walk around. Especially at the hotel by the casino, like kids can't just be left alone. Mm-hmm. So anytime I was out of the room, I had to be like kind of cautious that no one saw me. And when they would leave me in the room, I was always just freaking out that someone would find out I was left alone, because that would have been like, oh, I guess CPS is going to get involved now. That was a big phobia of mine as a kid, that child protective services would come and do something. I don't know.
Yeah. And then you'd probably have the misfortunate misunderstanding of, oh my God, this poor child is living in a hotel room, when in actuality it's like, we're actually doing okay, we just don't live in a house. Fuck off, my parents are fine.
Maybe
or not, I don't
know. Yeah, no, like you say, there's no playgrounds at the I almost said high school, but hotel.
Yeah, so it feels like, I don't know, a couple weeks of living in the hotels, my dad would drive me to school and pick me up after his job, but the driving distance that he had to do for this was just insane. So they decided to withdraw me from school, and they said, oh yeah, we will homeschool you, which never happened at all.
Right.
They just lied.
Oh, no.
And I basically became a ghost to my hometown, and all of my friends, I just disappeared one day and never came back, and I lost contact with everybody. So it was just me. There was no other like socializing with anybody. Just me in a hotel, passing time.
And your brothers were already older and had been on their own, I guess.
Once in a while, I would go and spend a night at one of my brother's houses. That sounds like my brother had many houses. He had a trailer.
Right.
He had a trailer where the toilet didn't work, and if you wanted to pee, you just lifted the lid and peed in a fucking pile of shit that no one could flush. So nice. It wasn't that much of a step up from the hotel, but at least it was something different. And
I'm not sure that is a step up from a hotel.
No,
you'd think the hotel would at least have, working plumbing, but sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
One more question on hotels before we move on, because I know we're getting into tangents, but I am curious, because, Steve always asks the question, does this affect you later on, or your behavior later on in life? Being an author and probably going to conventions now, I got to wonder, does it just seem weird walking into a hotel if you go to conventions and you stay there temporarily? This is odd.
No, not too much. I mean, a little bit for reasons we can get into in the next segment, which is going to tie into the teenage yields. But the one thing that has really affected me if I go into a specific place is a casino. I'm strictly anti-gambling due to the way I grew up, but no way, right? We were driving to California a while back, and we stopped in Vegas just because that's a good halfway point. And we were walking in the casino. We will say
there's no other reason that you stopped in Vegas.
That was pretty much it.
Yeah.
The hotel we were staying at Phil's had a casino in the lobby, and that was the first time I've ever stepped foot in a casino, and I was like, oh shit, this is traumatizing. I think I might have some stuff building up that I haven't thought about in a while. I need to leave immediately.
Plus, it's a little sensory overload. I mean, there's flashing lights and noises everywhere in those fucking things.
Yeah.
I'm curious what overwhelmed you about being in there?
Well, you spend all those years as a kid imagining your mom in one of those places, but you will not allowed in because you have to be 21. Just the things you build up in your head and all the hateful emotions that you have toward gambling in general. Just you have a lot of mean and violent thoughts about gambling, and you walk into one and you get confronted, face to face. This is the thing that you despise. It's a lot to take in.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can understand that. Yeah. Just a very strong do not like.
Yeah. I would, yeah.
Do not want. Okay. So, but horror media.
Yes.
In your teens. What did you find impactful in horror media?
Fuck. Mostly books, I would say. I did a lot of reading. I went to the library quite a bit, and I would just rent like a dozen books at a time and take them back to the hotel. So lots of Stephen King, lots of Jack Ketchum, stuff like that. The Talisman by Stephen King and Peter Straub was a big book that affected me greatly because it happens to be about a kid living in a hotel with his mom.
Oh, wow.
So that book, I was like, oh shit, this is me.
Right?
Really sad, funny, awesome book that I don't think a lot of people talk about when they talk about Stephen King. I'm surprised it hasn't been adapted yet. It's perfect full adaptation. I think Steven Spielberg optioned it at one point, but nothing happened with it. So yeah, The Talisman was a big book for me back when I was a teen. Same with the sequel, which was called Black House, although it was really different from The Talisman. As the kid in The Talisman is now quite grown up in Black House.
Just looking through this in the plot summary on Wikipedia, I noticed the first thing is the protagonist's name is Jack Sawyer, and Jack Torrance, Jack Sawyer. Does Stephen King use Jack a lot for his protagonist, I wonder?
Dude, Stephen King Jacks a lot.
I thought that, like, as the words were coming out of my mouth, like, maybe we'll give a professional. Thank you for going there, because I couldn't.
Absolutely. That's why I'm a guest.
And then Jack Ketchum.
Yeah.
Favorite book of his, maybe?
Whew. That's a tough one. Maybe Offspring, maybe Red. Red's a great one. It's about an old man and his dog, and it begins with him and the dog just kind of fishing, and these fucking rowdy teens come up and kill the dog. And so the book is like this revenge thing of the old man just fucking up these teens. I thought that was pretty good. I don't know what about it I like, just the whole thing is good. He's a good writer. Jack Ketchum's awesome.
Yeah.
So Gran Torino meets Jack Wick.
Right?
Basically.
John Wick. Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. Like
Jack Wick.
I know. As soon as I said that, I'm like, what the fuck?
That would not have been such a popular movie if it was called Jack Wick.
Probably not, no.
I almost did a spit take of my soda there. Thanks. Going back to Talisman for a minute, you mentioned Sunny, sad and funny.
Yeah.
What was sad about it?
What was sad about it? Oh, yeah. Well, the main plot is the mom is dying of some disease. So the son kind of like runs away to this fantasy land in search of a way to help the mom. Like it's been a long time since I've read it, so the plot isn't completely clear in my head. But the whole thing is him trying to save his mom. I mean, it's a sad ass book.
Yeah, but is he actually saving her in real life, or he's just escaping into this fantasy, thinking that things are going to be better? I guess.
Oh, it's real life. I mean, if you've read many Stephen King books, he tends to have different realities.
Here.
Yeah. Good point.
So what was funny about it?
What's funny about it? There's a sidekick that he runs into eventually. It's like a half dog man or something, and I just recall all the interactions with the sidekick being really funny, but it's been a while, so it's kind of fuzzy.
Was it a gray, fluffy dog with an Australian accent?
No.
It looked like John Candy.
You mean Jack Candy?
Yeah, right. What the hell was that thing's name in Spaceballs?
Oh, Barf.
Oh, yes.
Was it?
Yeah.
Half something, half... no, it wasn't. Well, that might have been his name, but he said, I'm something. I'm half this, half that.
Oh, he's a Mog. He's a man dog.
There we go. Okay.
That's right.
Did you encounter any horror media in your teen years that actually scared you?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Anything in real life that actually scared you?
Besides the overwhelming threat of being discovered by like child protective services, not really.
Right.
That was like the looming thing with me, you know. Oh, also, I should have mentioned this, but it slipped my mind. I just wrote a novella about this called Indiana Death Song, which is
Yes.
about my teenage years living in a hotel, but something I really embraced in the novella that happened to me is something called Truman Show syndrome. Do you guys know about that?
No, but I can kind of piece it together, like the whole feeling that your life is a facsimile and you're just being monitored.
Yeah, so as a teenager living in a hotel, I eventually convinced myself that this was all happening because I was being live streamed. That there were cameras all over the hotel, and they were watching me at all time.
I could see how that would be much more likely to lodge in a kid's brain than at home, shall we say.
It just felt like that was the only possible reasonable explanation for why I was stuck in this fucking hotel, and no one would like give me an actual reason why it was happening. Just
It's funny you say that because that's something that I have discovered in my own life. Part of the background of leading into the show is Chris has got a horror-themed webcomic. I wrote a book about the stuff that I learned through my journey through therapy and recovery and stuff like that. And one of the things that I learned is that, absent if you don't have information, your brain starts to make up shit, basically. And that's
fills in the gaps.
Yeah. And that's one of the reasons that people can be obsessive. For example, if they're in a relationship or they break up with someone or, the person's not responding to them or, and the longer you go, the weirder your thoughts get.
Yeah.
And I could definitely see how this kind of plays into that where, you're trying to search for a reason and you eventually stumble on that. Yeah. I could see that being
Absolutely. Yeah, that's it. I mean, you nailed it. That's exactly why. I recall, and this is in the novella, like opening my window and like sitting on it with my legs dangling out and going, okay, I'm going to do it, guys. I'm going to fucking jump. Just like expecting some producer to run out and stop me. No one did.
Did you jump?
Yeah, that's...
No. I did not. I was too much of a chicken to kill myself.
Well,
I was thinking, like second story, maybe you just broke a leg.
Oh no, it was like fifth floor. I would have died.
Okay, yeah. I redact my stupid question. Did you jump? Well, no, I'm talking to you right now, so no.
I am alive.
Are you a ghost? You gotta tell me if you are. It's entrapment.
Yeah, right. I landed on a dog. It's also scary just that the windows opened that allowed you to do that. I know that there was a period where they had to go back around and change all that so that, windows can't open above a certain height.
Yeah.
Apparently they missed that one. They didn't get to it yet.
Some hotels we say that the windows wouldn't open, and some we did open. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know what the logic was behind that.
I just hadn't gotten to it yet. So I'm guessing you didn't participate in Halloween very much from the hotel.
No, Halloween was something I never even. I don't even think I even thought about Halloween once the hotel happened.
I mean, at least there were good movies on TV, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, I had a laptop. I was given a laptop like a few months after the hotel thing happened, so that helped a lot with just watching movies on the hotel TVs. I usually didn't really watch too much because they didn't have that many great channels, and also like at night my parents, if they were at the hotel, they loved watching like Family Guy, so it was just like fucking Family Guy and Roseanne reruns and shit, so that was mostly what was on the hotel TV.
Yeah.
Any scary dreams as a teen?
No, I don't, not that I recall.
No Halloween, no scary dreams. CPS, I could understand that being a fear. Let me ask about that because That's also something I can relate to. I did not have the best childhood either, but I also was afraid of CPS because at the time I thought that meant that they would take me away from my family and I would never see them again. Not only my mother or father, but like my extended family. Like I thought, okay, so I'm never going to see my cousins again or my aunts and uncles. And that I didn't like because I loved the rest of my extended family. So was that also a similar concern of yours? Was it
Yeah.
that you thought?
Yeah, I mean, despite how I grew up, I still love my family. I love my family now. I didn't want to be taken away. I didn't want to be plucked and like thrown into some unknown situation and looked after by people I didn't know and probably wouldn't like. The whole thing was just terrifying. I mean, even before the hotel, the CPS thing was always like a thing that would nag at me because we didn't have the most traditional household. It was a really messy house, like the type of house that would be featured in some A&E reality show.
Orders.
Yeah, I mean, we all lived in the living room because you couldn't go into the other rooms in the house. They were so messy. And we also didn't have heat, like I said, growing up in Indiana. That is like a pretty big flaw. And I recall one time my mom had kicked out one of my brothers from the house because he's a piece of shit. And to retaliate, he called CPS and told them about the heat. Oh. And then they came to my school and talked to me, and it was really terrifying.
Dick move.
Oh, yeah. He's I believe... that time he was kicked out because he had slapped her. So, yeah, not a good person, that brother.
Mm-hmm. No. All right, so I guess that pretty much covers the teenage years. Going into adulthood, there was something that you said tied into adulthood. I'm trying to remember what it was, though.
Oh, yeah, I was employed 8.5 years working the overnight shift at a hotel.
Oh, no.
Well, you've been here so long, we've promoted you from guest.
Life is not without its ironies.
Right? But to go back, I mean, you guys don't have a prologue section of before I was conceived, but if you did have a preconceived section of the podcast, I would have said my parents met at a hotel because my dad used to own one, and then he hired my mom as like a bell attendant, and that's how they met. So I was conceived because my parents met at a hotel, and then I eventually lived in the hotel, and then I fucking was employed at a hotel. My life is a hotel.
I'm again wondering if you're being serious.
I am.
Wow. This could be like one of Douglas Adams' books from
Right.
So I have a novel out called The Nightly Disease, and that's specifically about my time doing the night shift at a hotel. So I have covered that pretty extensively. And then I have Indiana Death Song that's coming out next year in my collection, and that's about living in a hotel. So it's like they kind of go together, but not really. Different vibes and moods. Like Nightly Disease is very much just a comedy compared to like Indiana Death Song, which is just depressing and bleak.
Is Nightly Disease more of a dark comedy?
Yeah, definitely. It sounds
like it would be.
It's a bunch of true things that I've gone through while working a night shift, but made to be fiction, so I don't get sued.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, so I did that for 8.5 years, and then I quit only because of the movie that happened. So that helped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. I just don't even know what to say to that.
I know, right? It's just, someone should make a book about that. Wait, you're making 2.
Yeah, right. So horror in your adult years.
Yeah.
That you're a fan of. Let's put your work aside. Stuff that you're a fan of in your adult years.
Oh man, I mean, so many. I'm really much involved in the indie hoodle community because I run a small press and I do a podcast, and so I encounter so much. So I mean, it would be an endless list of names I could tell you: Brian Evanson, Haley Piper. Those are the only 2.
And so on.
And so on, yeah.
Etc.
I mean, it's difficult just to begin naming things that stand out to me at this point because it's just, this is my life now. It's this genre. I mean, this is my only job now, is being involved in this genre. Like, I now host a cool convention every year. I do a podcast in that genre. I mean, this is so, like, if you have like specific questions, but I'm having trouble just like reaching into my brain and just like coming up with an example.
So the kind of like Watergate, follow the money. We say follow the emotion.
Yeah.
And so if I were to hold your feet to the fire and say the first three that come to mind, usually the first three that come to mind, it's for some sort of deeper emotional reason that you can't necessarily put your finger on until you kind of dig into it a little more. But just through me talking, I would bet that one or two have already popped into your head. Like,
yeah, Last Days by Brian Evanson is one I always go to. It's a novel about about this ex-cop who, it begins with him just like at a Denny's, and someone tries to rob the Denny's, and then he ends up losing a hand while trying to save the day. And that's just like the prologue. The main plot is he then is contacted by this mysterious island to come investigate a homicide that happened on this island. But they only want him to come because only those who have been mutilated can enter this island. It's like a strange Wickle Man type of cult. Mutilation is how you gain entrance, and the more mutilations you have, the higher up you'll respected. It's really strange and surreal, and I love it. Yeah, Brian Evanson, if you guys haven't read him, it's like one of the best writers of all time. He's great.
That is it's very interesting. The more mutilation, the higher your rank.
Yeah, exactly. It's like at one point, not like a big spoiler, but a little bit, but to give you a big old example, he needs to talk to somebody, he needs to interrogate somebody who might know information about this homicide. But that person is so well respected and highly ranked, he won't speak to him because this detective is just a low guy on the totem pole. So he has to self-mutilate another piece of his body just to talk to this guy.
Okay.
For a second there, I thought you were going to say he couldn't talk to him because he's so high up on the chain that he's actually removed his tongue at this point.
Oh, no.
Oh, wow.
Another book that comes to mind, and this is one I discovered as a teenager, but I still love it and I'm obsessed with it, would be John Dies at the End by Jason Pilgin. Great book. Again, this is going back a little bit to teenage years, but when I was in the hotel, I had the laptop, and something I did a lot to spend time was I would go on the cracked.com message builds, and that was David Wong, aka Jason Pilgin's website. And so I just spent a lot of time like interacting and reading various message build threads. And that led to me discovering John Dies at the End and the rest of the books in that trilogy. So I think that book, specifically the initial book, John Dies at the End, it has the perfect blend of spookiness and comedy. It's really good.
All right. So let me think. Scrolling back up to some of our earlier conversations. So I'm seeing maybe some common threads with body horror. I think you even maybe have mentioned that earlier on in the call that was a thing that you liked.
Yeah, it's fun. Bodies are strange and disgusting, and they don't make any sense. And it's funny to me that we have them. We just have these fucking things of flesh that we lug around until they rot. It seems odd to me. And then underneath the flesh we have these bones. We just have these skeletons that we never get to see.
Nope.
But we know they exist because someone told us. We just have bones.
Hopefully never get to see.
Yeah. I don't know.
I always find it weird that you get to see some of them, like your fingernails or your teeth. Like, that's part of a whole thing that's just poking out from the meat suit.
Yeah.
Well, the fingernails aren't, but have you now started participating with Halloween?
Yeah, just I mean, it's a typical, dress up the house and have kids come and give them candy. That's about it.
Okay. No costume parties or nothing like that.
No, I don't do costumes.
Do you have anything against costumes?
No, I'm just unoriginal and I don't know what to do. Like I love masks, but I wear glasses now, and I don't understand the logistics of having glasses with a mask on. If I take off my glasses, I can't see anything, so it's just too annoying to think about.
Not a fan of contacts?
No, I would never trust myself to use contacts. I'm pretty sure I would poke my eye. And plus, just touching an eyeball seems really disgusting to me, and I don't want to do that.
Don't want to give yourself another black eye.
Exactly.
So by now you have more of a social circle in terms of horror because it's also what you're doing for a living.
Yeah.
So let's see. I mean, that pretty much covers a lot of the adult stuff too. I guess let's jump down to some of the wrap-up questions then. These questions here, there's probably about 10 or so, but these cover your entire life. It's not just any one section, and it's not just related to horror. You could answer anything, really.
I hope some of the questions can cover my life that hasn't happened yet. Like, how are you going to die?
Well, if you can answer that would be a very interesting question. Well, I suppose if you're planning on suicide, that you could probably answer that question, but
anywho.
Yeah, I'm like, should I ask that question? Are you planning suicide?
So okay, we got this covered. I know how we're all going to die. It's a solar flare in 2025, guys. Come on.
Yes.
All right. Okay, so the first two questions I'm going to ask at the same time because it could be the same answer, it could be two different answers. But if I were to ask, what is your favorite movie and what movie have you watched more times than any other, what would you say?
I think my favorite movie is probably The Gate, which came out in you guys know it. Okay, cool.
I know. I don't know if Steve's seen it. That's Steven Dorff, the awesome claymation demons. Yeah.
The movie's awesome. The movie I've seen the most, I don't know, probably like Pineapple Express or Shrek. I have nephews, so like we watch Shrek probably 3 times a day for like a year at one point.
Can you recite it like Will Smith and I Am Legend? Just straight up like zone out on the TV.
I think I could. I don't want to tap into that section of my brain, but yeah, I hate that movie so much. But yeah, Shrek is probably the most truthful answer to that question.
What about Pineapple Express? Is that something you also watched with the nephews?
They're just kind of a go-to.
Yeah, it's just a funny movie. Have you guys seen it?
Several times.
I have not.
Okay. Yeah, it's just, I don't know. I'm a big fan of like Apatow and like Seth Rogen and all those comedy boys. So yeah, that to me just seems like one of the best ones of those types of movies. And I tend to watch. I haven't watched it in a while, but for a period of time, I just watched it a lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, being a literary person, let me re-ask the same 2 questions, but referring to books now.
Yeah.
Favorite book?
My favorite book is probably
the Bible. No.
The Devil All the Time by Donald Ray Pollock. That's my favorite book.
Oh, yeah?
Okay.
And the one I've read the most is probably John Dies at the End. I've read that like 3, maybe 5 times, I would say.
Okay. Well, we've already talked about John Dies at the End. What about The Devil All the Time?
That book is bleak, man. I don't know. There was a film adaptation too recently, but I don't think it was as good as the book. Not even close. The book, it has a lot of bleak imagery, a lot of Southern stuff in it that I seem to like for some reason. It digs into religion in a way that kind of vibes with me. It has a lot of the same feelings I have about religion and serial killings and various other things. It's just a great novel. The way it's written is awesome. The guy who wrote it is just really talented, and the killer tales involved in the book are just great, and it sticks with you. There's some stuff in that book that you will not forget if you read it.
You commented something about having common views on religion. What was that?
It's not good. That's mainly my view on it, and it seems to that book summarizes why. So I would just recommend, if people want to know more about that, they should read the book and see how they feel about it.
Okay.
Organized religion can be a dangerous thing.
Yeah.
Almost all the time.
Yeah. We kind of commented about body horror, but if I were to ask, what kinds of common threads do you see about the horror that you enjoy? Would you say it's body horror, or do you see some other common thread?
I would say it's body horror. Yeah, I tend to like that quite a bit. I love I love any movie or book that has to do with technology in a specific way. Like Videodrome is one of my favorite movies, and anything about like discovering some old footage and then getting obsessed with it, I seem to really like a lot.
Okay, that's probably maybe inspired by your early exposure to the Evil Dead. Discovering that recording.
Oh. Yeah, maybe so. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. That could be.
Hey, on the Cronenberg vein there, have you seen Crimes of the Future yet?
Hell yeah, I have. What about you guys?
No, not yet. I need to.
It's good. It's great.
It's only in theaters right now, isn't it?
I think so. That's how I saw it, at least.
It looks really good.
Niche technology. What do you like about that?
I don't know. I don't have like a good answer to that. I think there's something satisfying about watching someone just like take an old like audio recording device or something to do with video and just fixing it and like hitting buttons and rewinding things back. I just find that soothing. And then I just love like things being on video or audio tapes that don't belong. It just, maybe that just goes back to just like old. I mean, I grew up in the 2000s, so I grew up with YouTube and shit like that. So maybe that ties into it. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
What do you mean by things that don't belong?
Like, you watch an old videotape and you see like a face in the blackness and you go, oh, whoa, what's that? Then you get obsessed with it and you spend the rest of the movie trying to figure out where that came from.
Okay, so like artifacts. Well, the next question is, any idea why it is that you like those things? And with body horror...
Yeah.
Well, what do you think about body horror? What do you like about body horror?
Oh, I just think bodies are hilarious. I think, as I was saying previously, I just find the human body disgusting and terrifying and also funny. It's just something odd about it that I can't quite place. I mean, I wrote a book, Maggot Screaming, is all about exploring bodies and how they decompose. I think it's crazy that, like, we're given this body with a ticking clock, and we know at the end of it, we're just going to become food for insects. It's like we will just like these meals percolating, right? Just cooking in a fucking crock pot, waiting for someone else to eat us at the end of the day. And that's crazy and kind of cool to me. I don't know.
Maybe surreal.
It's kind of surreal in a way. Like, I haven't read the book, but I've seen a little bit of the film adaptation of John Dies at the End. And there's that scene where there's I think one of the people just all of a sudden manifests himself as a pile of food. And it's a ridiculous scene because there's this pile of food in the shape of a human body that's speaking and acting as a person. But when you think about it, that's what human bodies are. They're a machine that we know, and in its definition as being a system of metal and fabricated parts, and you don't think of a machine as being something organic that's made of meat and bones and sinew, but that's what a human body is. It's a meat machine, which is just fucking weird and funny.
Yeah, it's so strange. I love it.
Yeah. Hilarious, disgusting, terrifying, surreal. But also, you had mentioned early on liking things that are chaotic and not being a fan of logic.
Yeah.
Let me ask that. We didn't talk about that earlier. When you say not a fan of logic?
I hate explanations in movies and books and In life, I think it's never satisfying to me. What's fun to me is trying to speculate, trying to understand, but never quite reaching a strong conclusion. It's the investigation process of any mystery that I find thrilling. And no matter what the true conclusion is, it's never going to be that satisfying. So I enjoy things that don't really give a shit about explaining. I love the chaotic, illogical nature of some movies, specifically in the horror genre.
Okay. My emotional response to that is that it feels like it's leaning towards the unknown.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I almost feel like asking, like a broken record. If I were to ask, how, do you have any idea why it is you like those things? Is there anything that you've thought of that we haven't talked about yet that would address that?
I don't think so. I mean, it might just be from my many yields of reading slush for magazines and books. I've read a lot of fiction, and I've seen a lot of movies. And after so long, it just kind of becomes boring when you have some explanation. I think, I don't know. I'm just not satisfied by everything being tied up with a bow.
I mean, it's almost a trope at this point, like film criticism channels like CinemaSins and other things always point out, exposition time. Oh, this is the expositional character. So it is kind of a trope for things to be over-explained. And I think it's almost globally unliked at this point.
I mean, think about Sam Raimi's movies with Bruce Campbell, man. Like, those Deadites, they make no sense when you think about them, but who gives a shit?
Yeah.
You see what happens and you have fun with it. If you think about it, what's the fun in that? I don't know.
Yeah. And what is the force that's always, doing the POV camera moving towards him? Oh, what is this creature? Is it a thing? No, I don't know. It's just make up your own thing. Whatever.
Yeah, just live in the moment and like go with the vibe. I prefer the vibe of like the plot usually. Just how does it make you feel? Does it make you feel like are you having fun? Are you thrilled? Is this cool? Is this strange and unusual? Just go with it.
Well, when you were describing that a few minutes ago, the phrasing that I was coming up with was, for lack of a better way to say it, that it sounds like you're not satisfied when things are satisfied.
Yeah, maybe so. That sounds good to me. I like how that sounds.
So maybe there's something about the uneasiness or, the leftover, the unknown that speaks to you.
Yeah. And as we've established, only one thing satisfies me. Clowns.
Yeah. Any idea why the unknown might speak to you?
I mean, I assume it probably has a lot to do with my childhood. I mean, living in a hotel and not knowing why, never being told anything. If I had to guess, that probably has something to do with it. I don't know. It's not something I think about much. Doesn't really like gnaw at me like, oh, why do I like this? Right. I just do. It's like, why do I like coffee? I don't know, because I'm fucking addicted to caffeine, probably.
That's part of it.
Yeah.
It tastes good. I love it.
I actually, contrary to what you said a second ago about maybe it having to do with you living in hotels and stuff, I actually think it might. I probably would not have guessed that, because it almost sounds like those are contradictory to me, because unless there's something that you've left out, it didn't sound like you really enjoyed the hotel experience per se. No. So I don't know why you would then be attracted to something that would remind you of something that you didn't enjoy. Does that make sense?
Well, you're assuming that people are like attracted to things that will healthy for them too.
True.
Yeah, like just because it's bad for me doesn't mean I'm not going to be attracted to it. Hence the clowns.
So maybe it's not so much that you enjoy it as maybe it's just that it's comfortable because it's what you knew. Maybe.
I mean, it also sounds like a bunch of bullshit to me. If anything I'm saying right now sounds like I'm just trying to find a reason, and I think the actual reason is just because it's cool and I like it. I like the taste of it. I like how it makes me feel. I just like it, and sometimes that's enough. I think
that's true, and I am able to be satisfied with that as an answer. I'm just doing the due diligence to make sure that we can't find anything beyond that. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible. I mean, I assume if aliens will dissect my brain and lay it out on some fucking table and like research it and like study it, they would be like, well, he likes this because of this. But
Right.
I don't have access to my brain in that way.
Well, and it's also possible that you may have some other reason that we just haven't uncovered because we haven't asked the right questions. I mean, that's not impossible
Yeah.
as well. Or, you know, it might be even just something as simple as you sharing something with your brothers, you know, when you were younger, and maybe there's some memory that is buried that you have forgotten about, but it was, you know, a positive experience, and you know, you just enjoyed it. Chris and I have talked about in the past on some of these calls that for people who are introduced to horror at a very young age, particularly before the age of like 3 or 4, it is very hard to tease out any particular reason, because whatever positive experience there was initially, it's just so far back that the memory might not even be there anymore, or it's you just can't pull it up.
Right. Yeah.
And, you know, normally the last questions here would then be, you know, why horror, or, you know, could there be other genres that you would enjoy other than horror? But, you know, if you can't really dig into what your triggers are, then it's hard to answer these last couple questions, because that's just it. The other genres don't really do anything for you.
I mean, I love all genres. I mean, I'm a big fan of all things. You know, I love crime fiction. I love. I'm a fan.
Actually, I was just about to say that you mentioned comedy.
Yeah, comedy. I love comedy. I mean, there's not a genre I dislike.
Not one?
I mean, you name it, and I'll tell you if I like it. I can't think of anything.
Country music.
Oh, we're talking music as well.
No, you just said.
You know what? I'm a fan of Johnny Cash, and he is country.
Okay,
correct?
okay, yeah,
So,
yeah.
I can find something in anything.
Yeah.
Speaking of movies, I was thinking like Hallmark Channel.
Oh, yeah, right. Can you sit through more than 10 minutes of a Hallmark Channel film?
Well, it depends how high you get me. Because they can be really enjoyable.
This is true.
I mean, are you telling me if you don't like high or drunk with some friends and you film one of those movies on, you wouldn't have a hell of a fun time? It would be great. It would be a blast.
If I can pick it apart like MST3K style, sure. Yeah. Let's go.
There's enjoyment in most things, I think.
Yeah.
But see, to me, that's not enjoying the movie. That's enjoying the social aspect of what's going on. Like, the movie is just secondary to that. You know what I mean?
So I don't know. I think the movie is what's holding the social aspect together, right? Otherwise, you would just be stuck making small talk, not knowing what to say. Instead, together, you will enjoy a movie. Even if it's not the intended way the filmmakers wanted you to enjoy it, you will still find your way to enjoy it.
I don't know. Even if I was drunk or high, I don't know if I could enjoy a whatchamacallit, Hallmark movie. They just, ugh. They grate on my nerves a little too much, but that's just me. So, all right. So I guess with ours, we don't really seem to have as clear of an answer as we have in some cases, and that's okay. I guess anything you want to pitch on the way out? I mean, you mentioned there was a book that you mentioned earlier.
Oh yeah, I have a collection coming out next March called Abnormal Statistics. Jesus Christ, I can't say the title. It's a collection of spooky fiction. They all have to do with families in some way. And it does include my new novella, Indiana Death Song, which is about my teenage years growing up in a hotel. So yeah, look for that next year. I have Maggot Screaming out now. I also I publish a small press called Ghoulish Books, and we do spooky books. Daniel Slater, which is on the show, I'm doing his Moonfellows later in July. I don't know when this episode comes out, but the book comes out July 20th.
And I think when we were talking offline, Ghoulish is also the name of your podcast?
Yeah, I have a podcast called Ghoulish, and it's a comedy interview show. I talk to folks about the horror genre.
Cool. Well, thank you very much for your time. And thank you to anybody out there listening. If you have anybody that you'd like to suggest to be a guest, please let us know. You can find out more about us at our website, horrormakesushappy.com. There's merch, Patreon. You can buy us coffee. If you like what we're doing, tell somebody.